I, 32, stood in my own living room, a ghost at my own anniversary party. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and champagne, a combination that usually made me feel celebrated. Tonight, it felt like the cloying sweetness of a funeral. My husband, Liam, 34, was across the room, laughing at something his colleague said. He looked handsome, exactly the way a man celebrating 5 years of marriage should look. But my eyes were not on him. They were on my best friend, Chloe. She was standing beside him, her hand resting on his arm in a way that was just a little too familiar, a little too long. Then it happened. The moment that cracked the foundation of my life. Chloe leaned in close to Liam, her voice a low purr that still managed to cut through the party chatter. "You are just the best, Daddy," she said. The word hung in the air. Daddy. Not in the way a child would say it. It was coded in something else. Something possessive and private. Liam's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. His eyes flickered toward me, a quick, guilty dart. He saw me watching. He recovered quickly, patting her hand and offering a tight-lipped smile. "Anything for you, Chloe," he replied, his voice strained. No one else seemed to notice. Or if they did, they chose to ignore it. To them, it was just Chloe being Chloe. Flirtatious, bubbly, always the center of attention. She had been my best friend since we were freshmen in college, the wild one to my quiet one. We were supposed to be a package deal. But lately, the package felt lopsided. It felt like she was the main event, and I was just the accessory that came with it. I felt a cold wave wash over me. It was not just the word. It was the history of 1,000 tiny moments just like this one. The late-night phone calls between them that were always about something urgent she could only talk to Liam about. The inside jokes that I was never let in on. The way his mother, Eleanor, always lit up when Chloe entered a room, saving her most brilliant smiles for the woman who is not her daughter-in-law. Eleanor adored Chloe. She made no secret of it. "Chloe just has such a spark," she would say, her eyes sliding over to me with a look that was not quite pity, but close enough. "She really knows how to live," the implication was always clear. I did not. I was the sensible one, the stable one, the boring one. Liam needed someone like me to ground him, but he needed someone like Chloe for fun. That was the unspoken narrative his mother had written for our lives. The party continued around me, a blur of smiling faces and meaningless chatter. I moved through the room on autopilot, refilling glasses, accepting congratulations on our 5 years of happiness. The word felt like a lie in my mouth. Happiness. Was I happy? I thought I was. But the single word from Chloe's lips had planted a seed of doubt that was already growing into a thorny vine, wrapping itself around my heart. I needed to know. I had to understand what was happening right in front of me. I excused myself, claiming a headache, and went to our bedroom. I closed the door, and the muffled sounds of the party felt a world away. My hands were shaking. I was not a jealous person. I had always trusted Liam completely. I had trusted Chloe. They were the two most important people in my world, besides my own family. The thought that they could betray that trust was a physical pain. But I could not ignore the sick feeling in my stomach. I opened our shared laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I did not even know what I was looking for. I started with their text messages. We had our accounts linked to the cloud, a convenience I had never questioned until now. I scrolled back, weeks, then months. It was mostly normal stuff. Group chat plans. Birthday reminders. But then I saw them. The messages just between the two of them. They were frequent. Daily. Full of emojis and pet names I had never heard him use. He called her Sunshine, she called him Elle. The conversations were long, stretching late into the night, often after I had already gone to sleep. They talked about work, about their friends, about me. My stomach twisted as I read a message from Chloe. "Is she still giving you a hard time about the boys' trip?" she had written. "You deserve a break from all that nagging." Liam's reply made my blood run cold. "You know how she is. Always worried. It is sweet, but sometimes I just need to breathe." Nagging. He thought I was nagging. I had expressed concern about him going on a weekend trip with friends I knew were a bad influence, friends who encouraged him to spend money we did not have. He had told me I was right, that he would be more responsible. But to Chloe, he had painted me as a controlling wife. I kept scrolling. I found pictures they had sent each other. Selfies from their work-from-home days. A picture of a new watch Liam had bought, one I had not seen yet. A picture of Chloe in a new dress with the caption, "Think this is a little too much for the office?" Liam had replied with a fire emoji. It was a small thing, but it felt like a secret world I had been locked out of. The worst part was the casual intimacy. They shared everything. Their frustrations, their triumphs. It was the kind of closeness we used to have, the kind I thought we still had. But reading their words, I realized my conversations with Liam had become logistical. We talked about bills, groceries, and whose turn it was to take out the trash. The deep, meaningful connections seemed to be happening somewhere else. With someone else. The party noise downstairs finally began to fade. I heard the front door close one last time. Footsteps came up the stairs. It was Liam. He opened the bedroom door, a look of concern on his face. "Hey, are you feeling any better?" he asked. I closed the laptop quickly. I could not let him see what I was doing. Not yet. I needed more than a few flirty texts. I needed to understand the whole picture. "A little," I said, my voice hoarse. "Just tired." He came and sat on the edge of the bed. He took my hand. His touch felt foreign. "It was a good party," he said. "Everyone had a great time." I looked at him, searching his face for any sign of guilt, any crack in the facade. There was nothing. He just looked like my husband, tired after a long night. "Chloe seemed to be having fun," I said, testing the waters. He smiled. "She always does. She is the life of the party." There it was again. That easy praise, that casual admiration. That comment she made was strange. I continued, my heart pounding. "Calling you daddy?" He chuckled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Oh, that. It is just a stupid joke between us. From that one time we were watching that movie, remember? The one with the clueless dad. She has been calling me that ever since when I do something she thinks is overly protective." He had an answer for everything. It was plausible. It was reasonable. It made me feel like I was the crazy one for even questioning it. This was his talent. He could make the most outlandish things sound perfectly normal. He was a master of plausible deniability. "I do not like it," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. His smile vanished. "What do you not like?" "It is a joke, Clara. You are being too sensitive. It does not mean anything." That feeling of being dismissed washed over me. He was not listening to my concern. He was managing my reaction. The conversation was over before it even began. He stood up, starting to undress. "I am going to take a shower," he said, his back to me. "We can talk in the morning if you are still upset." But I knew we would not. In the morning, he would act like nothing had happened. He would be charming and attentive, and I would start to believe I had imagined the whole thing. I had let that happen too many times before. Not this time. After he was in the shower, I opened the laptop again. I did not know what else to look for. Then I remembered something. Chloe had been complaining about her car for months, saying she needed a new one but could not afford it. A few weeks ago, she had shown up in a brand new, expensive-looking sedan. She claimed she got an incredible deal on a lease. Everyone had been so happy for her. I logged into our joint bank account. My hands were clammy as I scrolled through the transactions. I went back 3 months. Bill payments, groceries, the occasional dinner out. It all looked normal. Then I saw it. A recurring payment. $350 every month to a car financing company. It was not for my car. It was not for his. My breath caught in my throat. I clicked on the transaction details. The reference number was a string of letters and numbers. It meant nothing to me. But the name of the company was there, clear as day. I opened a new tab and searched for it. Then I searched for Chloe's car model. The company was the primary lease provider for that exact brand. It was not proof. Not yet. But it was a thread. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that if I pulled on it, his whole world, our whole world, would unravel. He was in the shower, humming a tune from the party. He sounded happy. He sounded completely oblivious. I lay back on the pillows, the laptop screen casting a pale blue light on my face. The image of Chloe, her hand on his arm, her lips forming that awful word, was burned into my mind. The betrayal was not just a suspicion anymore. It had a price tag, $350 a month. And I had a feeling that was just the beginning. My hurt was slowly, surely, turning into something else. It was turning into a cold, hard resolve. I was done being sensitive. I was done being the understanding wife. I was going to find the truth, no matter how ugly it was. The next morning, Liam was exactly as I predicted. He was cheerful, bringing me coffee in bed, kissing my forehead. "Feeling better today?" he asked, his voice full of concern that now sounded completely fake. "Much better," I lied, forcing a smile. I decided my first step was to play dumb. I had to gather more information without making him suspicious. "I was just thinking about the party last night," I said, stirring my coffee. "It was so nice of everyone to come. And Chloe's new car is amazing. I cannot believe she got such a good deal." I watched his face carefully. Not a flicker of emotion. He just nodded. "Yeah, she got lucky. She said the dealership had a special promotion." "It must still be a lot of money," I mused. "I hope she can handle the payments. You know how she is with money." "She will be fine," he said a little too quickly. "She's got a good handle on things now." He changed the subject, asking about my plans for the day. The conversation moved on, but I had my first piece of confirmation. He was lying. He knew exactly how she was affording it because he was paying for it. My mind raced all day. I needed to talk to someone. I could not carry this alone. I called my sister, Ava. She was younger than me, but she had a spine of steel and a knack for seeing through people's nonsense. We met for lunch at a small cafe, far from our usual spots. I told her everything. The daddy comment, the late-night texts, the car payment. Her expression went from sympathetic to furious as I laid out the details. "Clara, this is not okay," she said, her voice low and intense. "This is not you being sensitive. This is him being a snake." "But I do not have concrete proof," I said, the words tasting like ash. "It is all circumstantial. The texts are flirty, but he could say they are just friends. The car payment could be a coincidence." Ava shook her head. "There are no coincidences this big. He is hiding something. And Chloe, I never trusted her. She is my best friend," I whispered, the words feeling hollow. "No," Ava said, reaching across the table to grab my hand. "A best friend does not do this. A best friend does not call your husband daddy and secretly take money from him." Her certainty was a lifeline. It made me feel less like I was losing my mind. "What do I do?" I asked. "You gather proof," she said, her eyes glinting with a strategic light that I both admired and feared. "Undeniable proof. Something he cannot wriggle out of. Bank statements, emails, anything you can find. You need to become a detective." We spent the rest of lunch brainstorming. Ava was methodical. She told me to start a private journal, documenting every lie, every inconsistency. She suggested I look for other financial clues. Credit card statements, investment accounts, anything he might be using to hide his transactions. "And you need to act completely normal around him," she warned. "Do not let him know you suspect anything. The moment he thinks you are onto him, he will cover his tracks." I went home feeling both terrified and empowered. The path ahead was dark and ugly, but for the first time, I felt like I had a light to guide me. That evening, I put Ava's advice into practice. I was warm and affectionate with Liam, asked about his day. I did not mention Chloe once. I could see him relax. He thought the storm had passed. He had no idea it was just beginning to gather. Over the next week, I lived a double life. By day, I was the loving wife. By night, after he was asleep, I was an investigator. I started with the credit card statements. We had a shared card, but he also had his own personal one for work expenses, he had said. I had never thought to look at it. Getting the password was a challenge. I tried all the usual things. Our anniversary, his birthday, his mother's birthday. Nothing worked. Then I remembered a conversation from years ago. He had told me about his first dog, a golden retriever named Buster. The password was Buster123. I felt a pang of sadness. It was a relic from a time when we shared everything, when his secrets were as innocent as a childhood pet's name. The statement loaded. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scanned the list of charges. There were the usual work lunches and gas fill-ups. But there were other things. Charges from a high-end jewelry store a month ago. A purchase for $200. I had not received any jewelry. There were also multiple charges from a fancy restaurant downtown, a place we had only been to once for a special occasion because it was so expensive. He had gone 3 times in the last 2 months, always on a weekday during lunch hours. His work was on the other side of town. Chloe's office, however, was 2 blocks from that restaurant. I documented everything. I took screenshots of the statements and saved them to a secure cloud account that he knew nothing about. Each new discovery felt like a small, painful victory. I was building a case against my own husband piece by piece. The emotional toll was immense. I felt like I was constantly holding my breath, waiting for him to find me out. There were moments when I would look at him, sleeping peacefully beside me, and a wave of grief would wash over me. I missed the man I thought he was. I mourned the marriage I thought we had. But then I would remember the lies, the deceit, and the cold resolve would return. One evening, he came home with a bouquet of my favorite flowers. Just because, he said, smiling that charming smile of his. A year ago, I would have melted. Now all I could think was, what did you do today that you feel guilty about? They are beautiful, I said, arranging them in a vase. Thank you. I was thinking, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. We have not had a proper date night in a while. What do you say we go to that new Italian place this weekend? My mind immediately went to the credit card statements. Was this a genuine attempt to reconnect, or was he trying to placate me, to throw me off the scent? I decided to play along. I would love that, I said, turning in his arms to kiss him. The kiss felt like a performance. I was playing the part of a happy wife, and I hated myself for it. But I knew it was necessary. I had to keep the charade going until I had everything I needed. The next piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. Liam's mother, Eleanor. She called me one afternoon, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Clara, dear, she began. I was just talking to Chloe, and she mentioned that you seemed a bit down at the party. Is everything all right? I knew this was not a call of concern. This was a reconnaissance mission. Chloe had likely told her I was upset about the daddy comment, and Eleanor was calling to gauge my mood and report back. I decided to use it to my advantage. I've just been feeling a little overwhelmed lately, I said, injecting a note of weary vulnerability into my voice. Liam has been working so hard, and we have not had much time together. Oh, you poor thing, Eleanor said, the sympathy in her voice, so thin it was transparent. Well, you know Liam. He is so driven. And he is so generous. Always helping people out. Yes, he is, I said. He has been helping Chloe so much lately. It is really sweet of him. I let the sentence hang in the air. There was a slight pause on her end. Well, Chloe is like family, she said, a defensive edge to her tone. It is only natural that he would want to help her. She has had such a tough time. I know, I said. I am just worried about her finances. It feels like money is a bit tight right now. Nonsense, Eleanor scoffed. Liam is an excellent provider. You have nothing to worry about. You just need to trust your husband. The conversation ended soon after, but it had given me exactly what I needed. Eleanor knew. She might not have known the full extent of it, but she knew Liam was giving Chloe money, and she approved. She was not just an observer. She was an enabler. She was complicit in their betrayal. This realization hardened my resolve even further. It was not just Liam and Chloe against me. It was a family affair. They had all decided that my feelings, my security, my marriage, were secondary to their own desires. They had underestimated me. They saw me as quiet, sensible, and easy to manage. They had no idea what I was capable of when pushed too far. That night, I found what I was looking for. It was not on his laptop or his phone. It was in his office, in a locked file cabinet where he kept important documents. I had seen him open it 100 times. I knew the combination was our wedding date. The irony was sickening. Inside, among the tax returns and property deeds, was a folder labeled Personal. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was full of bank statements for an account I did not know existed. A high-yield savings account. In his name only. I scanned the statements, my eyes widening in disbelief. He had been siphoning money from our joint checking account into this secret account for over a year. Small amounts at first, then larger and larger sums. The total was staggering. Tens of thousands of dollars. Our money. My money. And then I saw the withdrawals. Regular transfers to another account. The account number was listed on the statement. I pulled out my phone and looked at the screenshot I had taken of the car lease payment from our joint account. The reference number. It was not a reference number. It was an account number.
And it matched.
He was not just paying for her car lease from our joint account. He was transferring thousands of dollars directly into her personal bank account from a secret fund he had built by stealing from our shared future. The room started to spin. I had to sit down on the floor, the papers clutched in my hand. This was not just a flirtation. This was not just helping out a friend. This was a calculated, long-term plan. They were building a life together, funded by my marriage. I felt a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. It was so intense it almost choked me. The grief and sadness were burned away, replaced by a cold, clear fury. There was no going back. There was no reconciliation. There was only one path forward. I was going to expose them. I was going to take back what was mine. And I was going to make sure they paid for every single lie. I took pictures of every single statement with my phone. I put the folder back exactly where I found it and locked the cabinet. I went back to our bedroom and slipped into bed. Liam was snoring softly, oblivious. I lay there in the dark, my mind working, planning. The question was no longer what they had done, but how I was going to make them answer for it. The next few days were a blur of meticulous planning. I contacted a lawyer, one of the best divorce attorneys in the city, recommended by a trusted friend. I had an initial consultation over the phone, laying out the basics without giving too many names. The lawyer, a woman named Sarah, was sharp and direct. "You need documentation for everything," she said, her voice calm and professional. "Financial records are key. Any proof of infidelity, like emails or texts, is also very helpful. The more you have, the stronger your position." "I have it," I told her. "I have everything." "Good," she said. "When you are ready to proceed, we will be ready to file. But let me give you a piece of advice. Do not confront him until you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure you have secured your own finances. Open a separate bank account. Move half of the money from any joint accounts into it. Legally, it is marital property, so you are entitled to it." I followed her advice to the letter. I opened a new bank account in my name only. The next day, I went to our shared bank and sat down with the manager. I explained that I needed to transfer a large sum of money for a family emergency. I moved exactly half of the balance of our joint checking and savings accounts into my new account. It was a significant amount of money, enough to live on for months while I sorted everything out. The act of doing it, of taking that control, was terrifying and exhilarating. It was the first step in reclaiming my life. I also started quietly separating our lives in other ways. I gathered all of my important documents, my passport, my birth certificate, my social security card. I packed a small bag with a few changes of clothes and essentials and left it at my sister Ava's apartment. It was my escape plan, my safety net. Ava was my rock during this time. We spoke every day. She listened to my updates, offered advice, and just let me vent when the pressure became too much. "You are so strong," she told me one night, her voice full of awe. "I do not know if I could do this. I do not feel strong," I confessed. "I feel like I am going to shatter into a million pieces."
"But you're not," she said.
"You are holding it together. You are making a plan. That is the strongest thing a person can do." Meanwhile, I continued my performance as the dutiful wife. I cooked Liam his favorite meals. I listened to his stories about work. I even managed to be physically intimate with him, an act that felt like the ultimate betrayal of myself. But I knew it was necessary to keep him from suspecting anything. I needed more time. I was still missing one crucial piece of the puzzle: the emotional proof. I had the financial records, which were damning. But I wanted something that would show the true nature of their relationship, the depth of their contempt for me. I needed something that would leave no doubt in anyone's mind. I started paying closer attention to their digital footprint. I checked our shared tablet, which we both used for reading and browsing the internet. Liam often stayed logged into his email account on it. It was a long shot, but I had to try. One night, he fell asleep on the couch watching a movie. I saw my chance. I picked up the tablet, my heart pounding. I opened the email app. His inbox loaded. It was mostly work emails and junk mail. I went to the sent folder. Nothing. The trash folder. Nothing. Then I saw the drafts folder. There was one saved draft. An email to Chloe. The subject line was our little getaway. My blood ran cold. I opened it. It was a reply to an email she had sent him. Her original message was at the bottom of the chain. I read her words first. I cannot wait for our weekend away. I have booked the most amazing little cottage by the lake. It is going to be so perfect. Just the two of us.
No nagging, no worries.
Just us. I have been thinking about what you said, about how you feel trapped. You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who appreciates you, someone who sees how incredible you are. I see it. I have always seen it. I love you so much, Daddy. The words blurred through my tears. The confirmation was so stark, so brutal. It was not just an affair. It was love. They loved each other. And they were planning a future built on the wreckage of my life. I scrolled up to read his draft reply. He had not sent it yet, but the words were there, typed out, waiting. "Sunshine, I love you too. More than you know. This weekend cannot come soon enough. I am so tired of the lies, of pretending. I spoke to my mother and she agrees. She said she always knew you were the one for me.
We just need to be smart about this.
We need to make sure the finances are sorted out before I tell Clara. I do not want her to take me to the cleaners. Once everything is in place, we can finally be together. Forever." I felt the air leave my lungs. His mother. Eleanor was in on it. She was actively helping him plan his exit from our marriage. She was encouraging him to deceive me, to manipulate our finances to his advantage. The betrayal was complete. It was a conspiracy, and I was the only one not in on the secret. I took a picture of the screen with my phone. I forwarded the entire email chain to a new, secret email address I had created for myself. I then deleted the forwarded email from his sent items and closed the app. I put the tablet back on the coffee table, exactly where it had been. I looked at Liam, sleeping on the couch, a peaceful expression on his face. He looked like an angel. But I knew the truth. He was a monster, wrapped in the skin of the man I had loved. The rage was gone now, replaced by an icy calm. I had everything I needed: the financial records, the proof of the affair, the evidence of his mother's complicity. The plan, which had been hazy before, now snapped into sharp focus. I was not just going to divorce him. I was going to dismantle his life. I was going to expose him and Chloe and his mother for the frauds they were. And I was going to do it on my own terms, in a way they would never see coming. The stage was set. All I had to do was choose the right moment to bring the curtain down. The perfect opportunity presented itself a week later. An invitation arrived in the mail, embossed with elegant silver lettering. It was for Eleanor's annual family dinner. It was her signature event, A lavish affair held at a fancy restaurant, where she could preside over her family like a queen. It was a command performance. Attendance was not optional. I knew both Liam and Chloe would be there. Chloe had become such a fixture in the family that she was always invited to these events. They would be there together, playing their roles. The devoted son, the adoring family friend. It was the perfect stage for my final act. I spent the next week preparing. I met with my lawyer, Sarah, in person. I laid out all the evidence on her conference table. The bank statements, the credit card bills, the screenshots of the texts, the forwarded email. Sarah looked through everything, her expression grim. This is one of the most comprehensive cases of financial and emotional betrayal I have ever seen, she said, looking up at me. He did not just cheat on you. He actively conspired with his mistress and his mother to defraud you of marital assets. This is airtight. She laid out the legal strategy. We would file for divorce the morning after the dinner. We would file for an immediate freeze on all his assets, including the secret savings account. We would sue for the return of every dollar he had given to Chloe. We would use the evidence of the conspiracy to argue for a division of assets that was heavily in my favor. You are going to walk away from this with everything you are entitled to and then some, Sarah said with confidence. The question is, how do you want to handle the personal side of this? I want to confront them, I said, my voice steady. I want to do it publicly. I want them to face the consequences in front of the entire family. Sarah nodded slowly. A public confrontation can be risky. It can get messy. I am not afraid of messy, I replied. They made this mess. I am just going to turn the lights on so everyone can see it. The night of the dinner, I took my time getting ready. I chose a dress that Liam had always loved, a simple, elegant red sheath. I did my hair and makeup carefully. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I barely recognized. There were new, hard lines around my eyes, but there was also a strength I had never seen before. I was not a victim. I was a survivor. Liam walked into the bedroom as I was putting on my earrings. He whistled. Wow, he said. You look incredible. Thank you, I said, my voice cool. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I am sorry I have been so distracted lately, he whispered, kissing my neck. Things have been crazy at work. But I promise after this weekend, I am all yours. The weekend. Their getaway weekend. The lie was so effortless, so natural for him. I had to fight the urge to recoil from his touch. Instead, I forced myself to lean back against him. I am looking forward to it, I said. The restaurant was exactly as I expected. Over the top and ostentatious. Eleanor greeted us at the door, kissing Liam on both cheeks and giving me a perfunctory air kiss that did not come close to my skin. You look lovely, dear, she said to me, her eyes already scanning the room for more important guests. Chloe was already there, holding court at the bar with some of Liam's cousins. She was wearing a slinky black dress, and she looked radiant. She waved us over, her smile wide and bright. There they are, she exclaimed. She hugged me first, a tight, theatrical embrace. You look amazing, she gushed. Then she turned to Liam, and the hug was different. It was longer, closer. I saw her whisper something in his ear that made him smile. We all sat down for dinner at a long table. I was seated between Liam and his uncle. Chloe was directly across from me, next to Eleanor. Throughout the meal, I watched them. The small, secret smiles they exchanged. The way their feet kept brushing under the table. The way Eleanor would direct all of her questions and attention to Chloe, pointedly ignoring me. They were so confident, so secure in their little world. They had no idea they were sitting on a time bomb, and I had my hand on the detonator. I ate my food, I made small talk, I smiled. I played my part one last time. Finally, the moment came. After dessert, Eleanor stood up, tapping her glass with a spoon for attention. I would just like to say a few words, she began, beaming at the assembled family. To health, and to happiness. We are so blessed to have each other. Everyone applauded politely. She sat down, looking pleased with herself. Then I stood up. A hush fell over the table. All eyes turned to me. I was never one to make speeches. I could feel Liam's surprise next to me. He put a hand on my arm. Clara, what are you doing? He whispered. I ignored him. I picked up my water glass. I would like to make a toast as well, I said, my voice ringing out in the quiet room. Eleanor is right. Family is a blessing, but so is the truth. So I would like to toast to the truth. I looked directly at Liam. His smile was gone, replaced by a look of confusion and unease. I gave him the sweetest, coldest smile I could muster. Daddy, I said, my voice dripping with mock affection. Could you please pass the salt? The word hit the table like a physical blow. The silence was absolute. Every single person was staring at us. Liam froze, his face draining of all color. Chloe gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Eleanor's eyes widened in shock. Liam just stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. What did you just call me? He stammered. I called you Daddy, I said calmly. It is your name, is it not? Or is that a special name, just for Chloe? Chloe started to cry, fat, crocodile tears rolling down her cheeks. I do not know what she is talking about, she sobbed. She is being crazy. Am I? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. I reached into my purse and pulled out a stack of papers. I had printed everything. The bank statements from his secret account, the credit card bills with the jewelry store and restaurant charges, and on top, a printout of the email. Our little getaway. I tossed the papers onto the middle of the table. They scattered across the white tablecloth like poison leaves. I think these might help clear things up, I said. Liam's cousin, Mark, who was sitting near the papers, picked one up. It was the bank statement showing the transfers to Chloe's account. His eyes widened. He picked up another, the email. He read it, and his face contorted in disgust. Liam, what is this? He asked, his voice low and angry. Liam was cornered. He looked from the papers to me, to his mother, to Chloe. The panic in his eyes was beautiful to see. It is not what it looks like, he said, his voice cracking. Clara is misunderstanding. Am I misunderstanding the $30,000 you stole from our joint account and funneled into a secret one? I asked, my voice rising with each word. Am I misunderstanding the monthly car payments you have been making for my best friend? Am I misunderstanding the romantic weekend getaway you two had planned? The one you were going on while you were supposed to be on a work trip? I turned my attention to Chloe. And you, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. My best friend. How does it feel to build your life on someone else's tears? I hope the car is comfortable. I hope the jewelry is pretty. You should know, it was all bought with money that was supposed to be for our future. Our children. Chloe just sobbed harder, unable to form a coherent sentence. Finally, I looked at Eleanor. Her face was a mask of fury and humiliation. And you, I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper. You encouraged this. You knew he was cheating. You knew he was stealing from me. You told him you always thought Chloe was the one for him. Well, congratulations, Eleanor. You are about to get the daughter-in-law you always wanted. I hope you two will be very happy together. Because you deserve each other. The room was in chaos. People were shouting. Mark was yelling at Liam, calling him a disgrace. Liam's aunt was trying to comfort me, while his uncle was staring at Eleanor with a look of profound disappointment. Liam finally found his voice. He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You have no right, he shouted at me, his face red and blotchy. To do this here, to humiliate me in front of my family. Humiliate you? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You have been humiliating me for over a year. Lying to my face every single day. The only difference is, I had the decency to do it in private. You did not give me that same courtesy. You brought your affair into my home, into my friendships, into my family. This is not humiliation, Liam. This is a consequence. I placed my wedding ring on the table, next to the scattered papers. I will see you in court, I said. Then I turned and walked out of the restaurant. I did not look back. I could hear the shouting and crying behind me, but it sounded distant, like it was happening to someone else. I walked out into the cool night air and took my first deep, clean breath in a very long time. It was over, and I had won. The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office at 9 o'clock sharp. Sarah had already prepared the paperwork. I signed the divorce petition, my hands steady. By noon, Liam had been served at his office. The petition included a temporary restraining order, preventing him from contacting me or accessing any of our remaining joint assets. The court had also granted our request for an immediate freeze on his secret savings account. The speed and efficiency of it all was breathtaking. My phone started blowing up almost immediately. First, it was Liam. He left a string of furious, rambling voicemails. He called me a vindictive monster. He accused me of ruining his life. He threatened to fight me on every single point of the divorce. I listened to the first one, then I blocked his number. Then came the text from his family. His cousins, Mark and Laura, both reached out to offer their support and apologize for Liam's behavior. Mark's text was particularly heartfelt. "Clara, I am so sorry. I had no idea. What he did is unforgivable. If you need anything at all, please let me know. My side of the family is with you." The messages from Eleanor's side of the family were not so kind. Her sister called me a drama queen who should have handled things privately. She said I had embarrassed the entire family. I blocked her number too. Then came the call from Eleanor herself. I almost did not answer, but a part of me was curious to hear what she could possibly have to say. "How could you do this?" she shrieked, without even a hello. "You have torn this family apart. Liam is a good man, and you have destroyed his reputation." I waited until she had finished her tirade. Then I spoke, my voice devoid of all emotion. "Eleanor, I did not do this. Liam did this. Chloe did this.
And you did this.
You stood by and watched your son lie and steal from his wife. You encouraged him. You have no one to blame but yourselves. He loves Chloe," she spat. "They have a real connection. Something he never had with you. If that is true, then you should be happy," I replied calmly. "He is free to be with her now. But his relationship with her is going to be built on a foundation of lies and theft. And the money he stole from me to fund their real connection? I am getting every single cent of it back. With interest. Have a nice day, Eleanor." I hung up before she could respond and blocked her number as well. My sister, Ava, came over that evening with pizza and a bottle of wine. I was sitting on the floor of my living room, surrounded by boxes. I had already started packing up Liam's things. "How are you holding up?" she asked, sitting down next to me. "I feel light," I said, and I was surprised to find that it was true. For the first time in months, I do not feel like I am carrying a terrible weight. "You dropped about 350 pounds of dead weight," Ava said, grinning. 180 for Liam, 120 for Chloe, and 50 for his mother's massive ego. I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. It felt good. We ate pizza on the floor and talked for hours. She told me the gossip that was already spreading through our friend group. Chloe had apparently gone into hiding. She had deactivated all of her social media accounts and was not answering anyone's calls. People who had been her friends for years were now seeing her in a new light. The story of her affair with Liam and the fact that he was bankrolling her life had spread like wildfire. She was a social pariah. The legal battle was surprisingly short. Faced with the overwhelming evidence, Liam's lawyer advised him to settle. He had no choice. The settlement was everything Sarah had promised. I got the house. I got 60% of our total marital assets, including the money in his secret account. He was also ordered by the court to pay back the funds he had given to Chloe, which were classified as a dissipation of marital assets. My lawyer sent a formal demand letter to Chloe for the full amount, including the cost of the car lease and the jewelry. She would be paying me back for years. Liam had to move into a small apartment. He was financially ruined. The public humiliation had also affected his career. Word got around at his company, and he was passed over for a promotion he had been expecting. He was stuck, his professional and personal life in shambles. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into his cousin, Mark, at a coffee shop. He looked awkward at first, but then he came over to my table. "Clara," he said, "I am glad I ran into you. I just wanted to say again how sorry I am for everything." "It was not your fault, Mark," I said. "I know, but it is my family," he said, shaking his head. "Eleanor is still trying to spin the story, trying to make you out to be the villain. But no one is buying it. She and Liam have been pretty much cut off by most of the family. And Chloe, I heard she had to move back in with her parents. She could not afford her apartment after she had to start paying you back." I felt a small, sharp pang of something. It was not pity. It was satisfaction. Pure, clean, and cold. "They got what they deserved," I said. "They did," he agreed. "How are you doing?" "I am good," I said, and I meant it. I am really good. Life became quiet after that. Peaceful. I redecorated the house, exorcising the ghosts of my marriage. I painted the walls, bought new furniture, and filled the space with things that made me happy. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who had been pushed to the periphery by Chloe's dominating presence. I focused on my career and received a promotion of my own. I was healing. The scars were still there, but they were fading. I was learning to trust myself again, to trust my own instincts. The experience had been brutal, but it had also taught me a valuable lesson. I was stronger than I ever thought I was. One evening, about a year after the divorce, I was sitting on my new sofa, reading a book, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Clara, it is Chloe. I know you probably hate me, and you have every right to. But I just wanted to say I am sorry. I was lost, and I made a terrible mistake. I hope one day you can forgive me." I stared at the message for a long time. A year ago, it might have triggered a storm of emotions. Anger. Pain. Sadness. Now, I felt nothing. It was like reading a message from a stranger about a life that was not mine.
She was not sorry for what she did.
She was sorry she got caught. She was sorry for the consequences. Her apology was a selfish act, meant to soothe her own conscience, not to heal my wounds. I did not reply. I simply blocked the number. I turned back to my book. The house was quiet. The air was still. And I was at peace. They had tried to break me, to reduce me to nothing. They had underestimated my quiet nature, mistaking it for weakness. They had wanted to play a sordid game of house, casting me in the role of the fool. But in the end, they were the ones who had lost everything. They were left with the ruins of the life they had tried to build on my betrayal. I had learned a hard lesson, but I had learned it well. I stopped giving warnings. I stopped explaining myself. I simply let their actions speak for themselves, and then I let the consequences follow. They had finally learned what it feels like to be small, to be powerless, to have their world crumble around them. And I had finally learned what it feels like to be free.